Here's Golf to Go with Frank LaRosa.
Welcome to another edition of the People Who Play the Game. I'm Frank LaRosa, very excited to welcome Mr. Barney Adams to the show today. Barney is anybody in golf knows Barney's name. He's an entrepreneur. He's the founder of Adams Golf, inventor of the Tight Lies fairway wood, holder of several patents for golf products. And what I like most about Barney is he's a proponent of growing the game and moving up a tee. I think those are two things that are going to help our game to continue to last. And so, Barney, thanks so much for being with us on People Who Play the Game. I appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Let's go back to the beginning. How did Barney Adams get his start in golf?
I can't remember that far. There's a book I wrote called The Wow Factor. And the reason I wrote it is because to adequately answer that question takes too long, because it's not a normal path. It's fueled by passion for the game, and it's a very how shall we say, adventurous at the very least first few years. So I wrote a book about it. But the best story I could give you is back, I was about 12 or 13 years old, and I had a job at a local golf course. It's just the gopher kid to do whatever they wanted me to do. And this was before golf carts. And people would push their push carts up near the clubhouse basement where they were stored overnight. And my job was to put them inside, line them up so they were nice and neat, and clean the clubs. And I noticed in cleaning the clubs that the long irons were barely used. And I can remember thinking, what the hell if people pay money for these things if they don't use them? I guess that was the beginning.
That's remarkable that at that age, you would notice that, but how true, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that sort of indicates where my mind was, even though I might not have realized it, but I mean, I can remember it clearly to this day. So it certainly made an impact.
What was fascinating about the game to you at that young age? What did you see, or did you see yourself kind of staying involved in the game?
I knew I wanted to. I didn't know how. I certainly was not a good enough player. I was a decent player, but that wasn't going to be an avenue. And I liked the people associated with the game. I liked the atmosphere. I just felt comfortable there.
What did you do after school and before you got in the golf business? Let's kind of figure out what happened before you got involved there.
Yeah, it's kind of, I was very fortunate to get some financial help going to college. I played sports, and after which I went to work for Corning Glass for almost 10 years. And I left Corning. I finally got it through my thick head that, and I told them this too, that I was a lousy employee, that I didn't fit in a big company because I wanted to run things. I just saw things I thought could be improved and so on and so forth. And you become a pain in the neck with that kind of an attitude. So I left Corning, and I got a job in sales, selling equipment to supermarkets, shopping carts and shelving and so on and so forth. And I left that when they made me manager of my own territory and hired two guys to come in, basically because frankly, because I made too much money. I was fortunate again, very successful, and it disrupted the company. So they didn't like that. So what I was doing, as I look back on it, was edging closer and closer to going on my own. And it's clearer now, but it wasn't so clear then. And then I ended up working in the Silicon Valley, working as a kind of a freelance troubleshooter for venture capital companies, going into small companies that they had purchased to work on particular problems that they noticed. And along the way, I got a call from the people that own Dave Pell's Golf in Abilene, Texas, saying, "Hey, look, we really got some problems, and Dave knows you, and so on. Can you come to Abilene, Texas, and take a look?" And I did, and they offered me the job, and I ended up going from the San Francisco Bay Area to Abilene, Texas, where they had 3 universities, none of which allowed dancing. So you might say that was a cultural change.
Was that a deal killer for you?
I wasn't much of a socialite, but I always remembered that.
So that's how you got into golf, through Dave Pelz's company.
Yeah, they were shutting down.
Yeah.
They were owned by guys in the oil business, and about that time, the oil prices had tanked badly, and they had serious financial issues. One of which was their financial obligations to Pelz Golf, which they could not meet. The bank foreclosed, so I got there just about the time the bank foreclosed, and we went from there.
So did you take over that company? Is that what happened?
Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, Pelz left. He had a guy down in Houston that wanted him to go start his short game schools. The business was dying, and after I got there, there was the bank was only interested in things we could do to raise money to pay them back, and we were out of things to do that. So I bought the remains, and which basically were some desks and chairs in a building that was sitting in a field outside of Abilene, and I had no plan. I had no anything except for this burning desire to be in the golf business. And again, I won't go into all the details, but it ended up eventually with me being going there full time. I will tell you another story because I think it's indicative. The PGA show, the company had gone to the PGA show for years, so it was on the invitation list. So after I bought it, we went to the PGA show. Now, for whatever we were doing components mainly in those days. But going to the PGA show meant packing up a truck, driving it from Texas to Orlando, Florida, unloading it, setting up a booth, and standing there for 4 days with no activity whatsoever because nobody knew who the hell we were.
Right.
And I can remember I loved every minute of it. I loved being at the PGA show. I went back, reversed the process, reloaded the truck, drove it back to Abilene, Texas, got in a plane, flew back to Northern California to resume my time with the venture capital guys because I didn't have any income. And about 2 months after that, there was the show at the semiconductor show called the Semicon Show at the San Mateo County Fairgrounds. Same deal. So I helped our little company load up its products. We made equipment that tested semiconductors, centrifuges, et cetera, and I thought, well, I want to be a decent guy, even though I did this stuff was really over my head, to be honest with you. But I was going to stay there in the booth and help them, be at least noticeable at this PGA show, at this Semicon show. And I did. And I can remember to this day very clearly standing there and I'm thinking, geez, I'm getting hungry. I haven't eaten much. It's getting close to noon. I'm going to see if there must be a food court around here someplace. And I looked at my watch and it was 10 minutes after 9 in the morning. And about half an hour later, the venture capitalist stopped by to say hello and I quit.
You getting a little bored there, were you?
Well, it was, even my thick head, the message was, Barney, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
This is not your world. Get out of here. You're not doing these people any good. So I left. Actually, I at their request, I searched around and found another small company that it's adjacent to the process of testing the semiconductors, and they bought that and joined them together and made a little bit bigger operation out of it. But I left town.
So when did Adams Golf come to be, and how did that come to be?
Well, Adams Golf was, I was in Abilene in the late 80s, and I moved from Abilene to Dallas, Texas in 1990 or 91, I can't remember, and officially called the company Adams Golf. And I went out to north of Dallas to the Hank Haney Golf Ranch. Never been before, never been Hank before. And he had this building there, and the one end of the building was basically empty. And I said, look, I'll come out here, I'll set up an operation, we can sell some golf equipment, it supplements what you're doing, so on and so forth. And he said, all right. So he was teaching, he was at I can see it in my mind's eye, he was at the right end of the range, and I'm talking about the left end of the range. Nice facility.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, this is great, I can sell some product here. Except that I couldn't give the stuff away. And I mean, nobody knew who we were, and it had no chance. And then I learned a very important lesson that or was reminded, I should say, of a very important lesson, and that is that you don't sell a product, you sell a service. And my service became custom fitting, with the idea that as I custom fitted people, I could then use that to sell some of my own product and so on and so forth. And in fact, I did. So I was doing on the range custom fitting back in 1990, 91, when it wasn't being done.
Sure.
But there were people in the industry that did it, that some old timers and so on, but it just wasn't part of the industry. So like it is today, for example. And that was very good for me because I learned a lot. I standing there watching the club hit the ball and watching where the ball went. And I used to take data. Actually, I used to try experiments. I used my customers in my experiments without telling them, you'll like this a lot. It'll go a little to the left, and it was designed just the opposite, and so on. But it was a very good set of data for me in designing a full set of clubs in that environment.
Yeah.
The one thing that became very clear was that the golfers struggled mightily with the long second shot off the ground, the fairway wood, as it were. And then watch it, and I had been to engineering school, so I looked at things a little bit differently. I looked at them more technically. And then looking at the results, it became very clear to me that my clubs were crappy designed. So I had to change. And I went to all the local retail stores around the Dallas area and looked at all the major manufacturers to see what their, staff of highly trained engineers and so on did. And their fairway woods are crappy too. I did, what I knew that the club had to do to get the ball, what I used to call A&F, airborne and forward, they weren't well designed. So one night I went home, instead of going home, I went back. We had a little bitty shop, Richardson, Texas. We did hands-on repairs and so on. And I sketched out on a piece of paper what I wanted the fairway wood to look like. And I remember again, clearly as I did it, the name Tight Lies. I just wrote it at the bottom. I thought that would be a good name for it. Don't ask me how or why, it just happened.
Sure.
And I fortunately had some contacts in Asia that made clubs for other companies and so on. And I sent it to this one fellow that I knew. And I said, can you make me some of these? It was on a yellow pad that I tore off the top sheet and put it in a fax machine. And he responded to me. He said, this is kind of a strange looking club. Are you sure you want to do it? And I said, yeah. I said, you see, and I'm going to, I don't know, take this forever, but I think that even today, custom fitting is backwards. I don't think it is that way because that's all you can do with the equipment. I understand. But in my mind, you made a golf club, you had a shot in mind, and you work from there backwards into the club. You didn't design a club and then, try and move that into the shot, so to speak. Yeah. So I had in my mind what I wanted the ball flight to be, and I had traced that back to a club design. And basically what I did is I took the ongoing fairway woods at the time and turned them upside down. Mm-hmm. lower the center of gravity, and then I added some other things and so on. He said, all right, if you want them, I'll make them for you, so he did. And a couple of months later, a box came with some heads, and they were to the request that I had made. Shafted them up, took them to the range, hit them, and they hit great. And I can remember, again, paying attention to my customers, that I could kind of hear the self-talk, a weird looking thing here. Oh my, blah, blah, blah. But then they would hit it and they would go, wow, that's pretty good. Wow, that's better than I could do. And that became what we called in our company the wow factor. That we had to make product that produced a wow factor, because that was one of the services that we were providing to consumers. So I thought at the time, great. Now I've really embedded my custom fitting operation and went on to something else. And then the phone started to ring. Holy God, I played with Frank the other day, and he hit this shot a number. He's not that good. I got to get one of these. And that led to a guy influencing me to try a infomercial, which I had never heard of. I didn't even know what an infomercial was. And I went on to become the most successful infomercial in the golf industry. And, the rest, as they say, is history. We went from zero effectively sales to close to 100 million in sales in 3 years' time, which you cannot do. I could write another book about, and I included some of it in my book, about the difficulties, because you quickly move from product issues to people issues.
Sure.
And a very, very difficult environment. But I could say that everybody tells me how lucky I was for those 3 years and so on and so forth. And we were, I don't deny it, but boy, were they tough. That was just really difficult, because the pressure was unbelievable.
And you went on to continue to to refine golf clubs. I remember your hybrids and your irons had your own touch to it too. And Adams became a brand that people understood because of that infomercial. That's a remarkable story.
Yeah, and if you look at the history of the golf equipment business, the 4 leading companies today are Ping, Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. 40 years ago, it was the same 4, which tells you something. That number one, golf clubs are not sold. Golf clubs are bought. It's a marketing business. It's not a product business. Being a marketing business means huge investments in advertising and associated marketing services. And it's very, it's obviously been for the last 40 years impossible for somebody to break in. We were the only guys that established a foothold. And, somebody can't run out and do an infomercial today because they're 20 times more expensive than they were in our day. We were very lucky.
Yeah. And you were going after that average golfer, the recreational golfer, the weekend golfer that is always looking for something to make the game a little better. But that's really the lifeblood of the game. And are we doing enough for those golfers? I mean, golf courses certainly aren't designed for the most part for weekend golfers. And as you so well put, that we're probably playing the wrong tees. What else can we do to to make the game better for the weekend golfer and have them have more fun while they're doing it?
Well, I'm 83 years old, almost 84, and I should be, happily retired and so on and so forth, except that I'm not. I have a little company in Dallas, Texas. I live in the California desert because I like the sun. I grew up in upstate New York where we shoveled snow for 7 months a year. I'm done with that. I've paid my time. And we make just shafts. And we make shafts that make it easier to hit the golf ball. Shafts have been frankly, shafts are a price thing. If you get a big company and you get a purchase order for a lot of shafts, you shop around. And some companies have tried to establish their name. So, we got the blah, blah shaft in our club. But I can guarantee you that 98% of the golfers have no idea what they are and so on and so forth. our shafts are all patented. We started with the putter shaft of all things, because we learned that the steel shaft oscillated slightly during the stroke, which if it's oscillating slightly, it means the face is oscillating slightly. And that's the last thing you want to start the ball off in the right direction. So we made a shaft that doesn't oscillate. But here's the difference. That's an easy product to design. If you want your shaft to not oscillate, make it heavier.
Yeah.
You want it to not oscillate, make it wider. But those two things require that the golfer makes an adjustment. That's a significant adjustment to the feel of standing over a normal or historical shaft. That's not good. You've got to make a shaft that fixes the problem, that feels the same, that balances the same, so the golfer gets their result without having to worry about making any change. That's a big deal. That was very, very hard to do.
I bet.
It took us a couple of years.
You know, I remember your company sent me one of the shafts. As a matter of fact, I sent one of my putter heads, and the shaft was put in it. And in my mind, it's always that first shot with a club or the putter or whatever it is. That's where, you know, your mind is used to something and you feel something different. And I thought that putter shaft was unbelievable. How solid, and solid isn't even the right word, but how stable. Yeah, I guess stable. But there was a real positive feeling that went through my mind. I thought
it's called the wow factor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you've done that before, haven't you?
Well, it's our attitude. We have a driver shaft now and a wedge shaft, and we have the same attitude. We're not there just selling shafts. Anybody can do that. All of Asia sells shafts.
Yeah.
We're selling technology. And the golfer has got to be able to relate to it. The golfer's, you know, if he goes in or she goes in with a negative, come on, you know, it's a putter shaft. Give me a break. Or, you know, we've got a wedge shaft now. And then they use it and they go, wow, that's what we're after.
You're a proponent of people moving up, that we're all, you know, our egos get involved and we think we need to move back a tee, and we want to play with our friends, and can't figure out why we, you know, can't get lower than a 19 handicap. And tell me, you know, how your thought process got to that, and you know, how you feel about moving forward.
I was doing a favor for a guy. He's a well-known teacher out here in the desert, and he had a young man, a student, and he had a conflict. And he said, "Look, I need you to use up a couple hours of his time. Would you do it?" And I said, "Yeah, we'll go play 9 holes or something." And he was a typical young guy, hit the ball 400 yards off the tee, you know, and so on and so forth. So I thought, as we went over to the golf course, I think I'll use him as an experiment. And we got to the very nice, accommodating guy. And we got there, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to have you play like I do. I'm going to have you hit shots into the green for your skill level, which are tantamount to what I have to do at my skill level." He said, "Okay, what the heck, you know?" And we did. And 4 holes later, he quit. He said, "That's crazy. Nobody plays like this. This is not any fun." I said, "Really?" I said, "You look around this golf course. That's what we're all doing, most of us, every day." And he just shook his head. And that became what I called it the tee it forward movement. Or I didn't call it that, the PGA did. I forget what I called it, but it was if you look at a golf course and you stand on the green and look back, the designer has designed that green for a certain type of shot to come into the green. Let's say, to make it easy, we're on the right side of the green and there's a deep bunker in front of the green and the pin's over there. You got to carry the bunker, right? So the designer has designed that hole so the ball is up in the air, lands on the green with spin, and gets to stop near the flag if he hits a really good golf shot. We don't do that. We're back so far that our ball isn't high. Our ball is more like a bullet if we hit it good. And we're hitting it to the left side of the green, which has got a small opening, and it's not going to stop. And if we hit our very best shot, it rolls over the green into God knows what's over there. and we don't play the hole the way the course designer had it in his mind in the first place. So that's what I wrote about is let's take a look at the average length tee shot. I mean, I remember when I was a custom fitter, how far do you hit your driver? Oh, not maybe 240 if I hit it good. And they hit it 185. So, we have to design the course and make it golfer friendly so that if they hit one of their good or my good tee shots, whatever, they can hit a shot into the green the way the course is designed. That means you've got to move up. There's no other opportunity. And I'll be very honest. I don't think the golf industry has done a very good job of educating its consumers to that point. I got mad, but I thought the Golf Channel could have taken that concept and done a great job showing people why and how it works. And they never did anything. Of course, the Golf Channel doesn't play golf anymore, so that's a different world. But it's still out. It's still out there to be improved on. I'll put it that
Yeah,
way.
I would agree. I thought when the PGA came out with the Play It Forward, and I mean, it only lasted a year, and I really was disappointed. I thought that it could have done so much to to help improve people's enjoyment of the game and help bring in new players as well.
Exactly. That's a whole nother subject, is how the PGA does things. But they sent me around the country to give talks and so on the concept, and I did, and I tried. And you go to your average club pro, and frankly, too many of them could care less. They just get them out on the golf course, and life goes on, so to speak.
Tell me, you were inducted in the Texas Golf Hall of Fame. What was that like in your career?
When they told me, I thought, oh gosh, I mean, I've had other awards and so on, and it was in San Antonio, Texas, and I had to tell my friends that to me that was the right thing to do. So I told them, and I told them not to go to the ceremony. I said, it's just more PGA stuff. Don't do it. I was kind of at a crossroads between not being a fan of some of the stuff the PGA does and not trying to denigrate their nice, award for me and so on. So anyway, I went down there, and the people that put it on did a terrific job. There was a gal by the name of Katie Boehner, and I will always remember Katie because they came to my house and filmed me, and she was standing there, and they had me hit a fairway wood. They're doing the tight lie story, and she said, "Hey, let me try that." And she was there with her shoes on and stuff, this young, I guess maybe 40-ish, very attractive young lady. And she took my tight lies club and hit it about 30 yards past me, and I just hit a good one. And it turned out she was a 2 handicap. I don't think I ever spoke to her again. I said I couldn't stand that. But they did a wonderful job. It was a lovely dinner. There were 6 of us that were inducted in at the time, and it was a nice affair. It's a nice thing. And then you go home, and 2 days later, you're back to normal.
You've had a long career. What's the best piece of advice you ever got?
My attitude is always forward. What are we going to do next? We just can't sit on what we have. What are we going to do next? You just got to keep that. That's just me. I'm wacky anyway. And I would say, I don't know if it was a piece of advice between that idea and then what I would call the wow factor, making product that people say, wow, that's pretty good.
You talked about always coming up with something new. What's next?
Well, we've got putter shafts, wedge shafts, and a driver shaft, and we're working on iron shafts. We're going to, by a year or so from now, we'll be a little company that can supply a superior brand of shaft technically superior, not marketing superior. And we've been able to do that so far.
Barney, you are amazing. Barney Adams, founder of Adams Golf, the inventor of the tight lies, and it just goes on and on and on because he can't sit still. Appreciate you taking the time to be with me today.
When I wrote the book, I included the line, there's a fine line between entrepreneurship and insanity. And I thought, well, that's okay. I'll accept that. I understand that. And then I found out that I remembered it because it had been written by somebody a long time ago. But that's the world of entrepreneurship.
Well, you've done it well, and we want to see you continue to do it, and look forward to seeing what you come up with next. Barney Adams, thanks very much for being one of the people who play the game.
Thank you very much.